Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. Hoping out there enjoyed your weekend. We got a lot to talk about in this update with multiple systems that's going to bring some significant winds, larger hail, and heavier rainfall as we break down the details for you over the course of the next 5 days. If you take a look at the satellite picture this morning, we do have a little bit of a cool front that's draped across areas of West Texas back into Oklahoma. Out ahead of it, we do have some convective complexes, rain and thunderstorms across areas of Oklahoma and into Kansas. But the main system is going to be further south, right along the I-10 corridor, where we do have a stalled frontal boundary. You can see all the lightning display that's showing up across areas of the southeast this morning. Those are big time hail producer thunderstorms, and some significant winds are going to be so associated with these, as they tend to kind of bow out ahead of it. Some 60, 70 mile per hour winds are definitely not out of the question as we just have these convective complexes. And I think this is just the beginning stages of what's to come. That's going to be a very active time frame over the next couple of days. If we take a look at the overall hazard map, you can see this area has just been inundated of lately. So they have renewed flood watches down there for areas of Texas and the southeast Texas, back into Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, even getting into the Florida Panhandle. And yes, there are some areas that still having that dense fog up here to portions of Minnesota and Wisconsin, but it's really all culprit of the jet stream. We used to have a very active subtropical jet stream as it's just kind of alive and well. We have multiple systems that's training to cross, and we have these little cool fronts that are highlighted across the I-10 corridor, and they're going to be, training to cross these same areas, bringing some of that heavier rains happen into the instability once it gets into daytime heating, activating those thunderstorms. And then further north, where we have the polar jet, that just tends to be a lot less active. So you have a lot less activity happening for those areas across the Northwest. And as we head into this afternoon, it's going to tap into a lot of instability, especially further south. So for those areas down there in South Texas and to Southeast Texas, getting into Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama, getting into those areas into the Florida Panhandle, that's where you're likely going to have the renewed concern of more severe storms as we heat it up in the afternoon. So this is an upgrade from the Storm Prediction Center for those areas into Corpus Christi, back into San Antonio, getting into the Houston area this afternoon, into Lake Charles, further into New Orleans, as well as into Mobile, back into Tallahassee. Yes, Tallahassee could get hit again into the evening time frame with another series of thunderstorms with those bow features that could produce some significant winds, as well as very large hail. As we got a lot of instability draped across this atmosphere. We saw a lot of large hail just yesterday into central Texas. I think it pulls a little bit further south. So again, those areas into Corpus, back into San Antonio, Austin region, into the Houston Metroplex, into southeast Texas, back into Louisiana, into Lake Charles area, into New Orleans. Those are going to be the highest threat. Could see some of that 2-inch, possibly higher hail with these convective complexes. A little lighter amounts as you extend further into the southeast and back into Florida. But you can't roll out some isolated spin up tornadoes along those features, along with the significant winds. Yes, we could be looking at some 60, 70, I can't even roll out some 80 mile per hour wind gust with those bowing features that really race across. And these are fairly going to be fast movers as well. And you also have to be concerned about an isolated spin up tornado that could reach all the way up into Little Rock, as well as into the Shreveport region, back into Jackson. But the further you live along the coast, the more instability you're going to be able to tap into, especially for those areas into Lake Charles, back into New Orleans, as well as into Mobile. But what's going to happen as we get into the heat of the afternoon, we're going to have another area of convective complexes that's likely going to blow up across the deep south, back into Texas, right along the I-10, I-20 corridor. Looks to be some significant winds, some larger hail, and those isolated spin-up tornadoes. Further north, You won't be in the severe threat, but you will get some heavier rains that will be draped across areas of Kansas, back into Missouri, as well as into portions of Arkansas. But here's the breakdown over the next 48 hours, folks. And look at those ribs that are kind of showing up on the high resolution complex. Yeah, those could be some significant winds. I think it all originates later on this afternoon. And as we head into the overnight hours, hopefully most of the instability actually remains offshore in the Gulf of Mexico. But the further you live, the closer you live into along the coast there, the more susceptible you're going to see the more significant winds. And yes, 60 to 80 miles an hour is definitely not out of the question. So definitely buckle up, as it's going to be a bumpy ride later on this afternoon into the evening time frame, going into the overnight as we head into tomorrow. And here's the overall helicity index, where they could be rotating, but also some larger hail producers. So again, those areas right along the coastal regions, likely into Corpus, back into Victoria region, right along into, say, Galveston, into Houston, into Beaumont, back into Lake Charles, getting into New Orleans, back into Mobile. Further along you live the coast, you're going to be in the highest probability of seeing the largest hail and the more significant winds, and the greater the opportunity that you could see an isolated spin up per tornado over the next 48 hours. And it's going to produce a lot of heavy rainfall. So here's just the rainfall over the next 48 hours. You can see much of the west just gets missed out. You don't really get any of these convective complexes. It's really highlighted across the areas of the deep south. That's where they're going to be picking up some heavier rains. That's why they have the flood watches in place. And yes, some of those areas could pick up 4, 5, even 6 inches of rainfall, especially the further you live along the coast. But even further north, with that area of low pressure center just kind of spinning, that's going to produce its own heavier rainfalls across areas of Arkansas, back into Missouri, getting into portions of southern Iowa, Illinois, back into Indiana, getting into areas of Ohio, Kentucky, into Tennessee. That actually feeds into West Virginia, as well as into Virginia, through the Carolinas, and up here portion of southern New Jersey. This is just over the next 48 hours, with all the heavier rains, with those complex and series of thunderstorms that will be moving across. But it doesn't really end there, because the conveyor belt doesn't stop, because we have another one that's going to be dropped further south. And this is actually in south of California. It's really pretty far south for this time of year. So it misses out for those areas into California and all those areas into the desert Southwest. You really only get a drop from this system. It's all going to feed back into the areas across the southern plains, get into the southeast, and I don't think it ends there either. So by Wednesday, we have the highlighted area that's going to be basically highlighted over portions of the Ohio Valley. Then we have a new one coming off into California, right? Set up shop across California. And then we have another one. And then, yes, we have another one. So all the activity is going to be further south, and it's going to feed back into the dry line out here in West Texas. We could be looking at some more thunderstorms as, again, we heated up in the afternoon. So going into your Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night time frame, there's the area of low pressure with the first system that will be bringing those showers and thunderstorms across the Ohio Valley, as well as into the Mid-Atlantic. Then we have the renewed system with the renewed area of low pressure that sets up shop across New Mexico. Then you have the dry line getting activated into the heat of the day into West Texas. Some of those could be isolated severe, and that pulls the moisture back into Colorado, into Kansas, as well as into Nebraska, getting into the heat of the afternoon. And that will be on Wednesday afternoon. You can see the setup on Thursday. So that first system just moves back out into the Atlantic. And then, yes, we have the new system. Look how far south it is. It's basically south of Arizona into Mexico. That's going to pull more moisture back into the areas of Texas and have that ridge of high pressure center really locked over those areas across the Northwest, not really allowing for any activity as far as the rain showers underneath that ridge of high pressure. So if we look at the setup by Thursday, that's likely going to bring some more severe storms as we have more instability into the Lone Star State. Those areas at least will likely be under a slight risk for severe weather by then, as we'll be looking at more convective complexes that will be moving across the region. And as of right now, you can see where we have it highlighted here across Texas and Oklahoma. This is likely going to be even possibly upgraded to an enhanced risk as we get closer to this event. But right now, the Storm Prediction Center has not highlighted this area. But by the time we head into Thursday, they will definitely will, with all that instability in place. We've got that significant system that will be approaching from the west. So, but it's also going to tap into more moisture, right? So for a lot of the same areas that get hit with the heaviest rainfall, it's just kind of just produces more heavy rainfall kind of over the same areas, right? The air mat, the ground is just really saturated. So it doesn't take much. You have the highest dew points, you have the highest instability. So yes, unfortunately, back for those areas into southeast Texas, right along the coast and the I-10, possibly the I-20 corridor, would likely lead to more heavy rain and flash flooding setups as we head into Thursday. And this is exactly what the Weather Prediction Center already has right now, has that slight risk for excessive rainfall. Could even be a moderate risk by the time we get even closer. But yes, a lot of the same areas get hit with more additional rain as we have yet another area of low pressure center that will set up across the plains that will bring some more heavier rains back into Missouri as well as into Illinois. That just, again, as we head into Friday, will shift back into a lot of the same areas where they are now and where they will be over the next 5 days across the southeast, getting into Louisiana again, back into Mississippi, as well as into Alabama, into Georgia, and especially there in the Florida Panhandle. So if we break down the precipitation front over the next 5 days, you can basically see we've got the West not getting much of anything. You got that dry slot. Well, you're just begging for rain out here. Everything kind of sets up essentially east of the Continental Divide and really setting up shop across central and southeast Texas. Kind of see the red areas. That's where you're going to have the most significant rainfall and the flash flooding concerns. Then we'll have multiple areas of low pressure center that will be highlighted across the Panhandle that will be shifting northeast, that will spread its own rain showers for them across Missouri, back into Illinois and the Tennessee Valley, as well as into the Ohio Valley, and getting up here to the Mid-Atlantic as well, as we feed that 1 to 2 inches of rainfall over the next 5 days. So I appreciate you guys watching. I do like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch me next update. Fire protect you before and after the storm.